Okay, I will begin then. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Young. I'm the traffic engineer for Alameda County Public Works Agency. Unfortunately, due to some last minute urgent matter, Edric will not be joining us tonight. And he had asked me to fill in as the facilitator for tonight's bicycle and pedestrian committee meetings. We are conducting today's meeting remotely via teleconference in response to directives issued by local and state health officers regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Teleconferencing guidelines were provided with the agenda. Before we begin, I want to go over the agenda. So let me share that on the screen. So here's the agenda for tonight. We'll begin with a call to order. We'll do a roll call, and we have two presentations scheduled tonight. We'll begin with the overview of the bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And we'll have a presentation on the active transportation program grant applications that we submitted recently. After that, we move into two discussion items, approving the minutes from last meeting and looking at rescheduling our meeting for the December meeting. We'll move into public comments, and after that, we will adjourn the meeting. So let me stop sharing that for a second. So public participants on this teleconference will have an opportunity to provide comments when I open public comments for each discussion item. For items not listed on this agenda, the public will have an opportunity to comment during the public comment section of the agenda. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. If you're teleconferencing using a laptop, use the button at the bottom of your screen to raise your virtual hand to request to speak. When called to speak, please unmute your microphone and state your name and the city you're calling from, and you can share your comment. If you're calling in by phone, dial *9 to raise your virtual hand to speak. When you are called to speak, the host will automatically unmute your mic to enable you to speak. For those providing public comments, please note that there is a 3-minute time limit for your remarks. If you have raised your virtual hand to speak, but your question has already been answered, or you no longer wish to share a comment, please lower your virtual hand or let the host know. So the first item on our agenda is call to order. For the record, it is now 6:07. Before I begin, I want to update the committee to let you know that Kathy Langley has stepped down from the committee. So if you know of any potential candidate that can represent the Fairview district, please email us, and we would like to get in touch with them. Now, second item on our agenda is roll call. I will be calling out each committee member's name alphabetically. Please state if you are present, and if I mispronounce your name, please correct me. Parvin Ahmadi.
Here.
David Bertman.
Present.
Sharon Boholman.
Present.
Chris Chandler. Okay. Chris is not here, looks like. Chanita Chu.
Here.
Bruce Doogie. Bruce, you might have to unmute your mic.
Present.
All right. Rachel Factor. Dan Leary.
Present.
Carmen Lopez.
Here.
Matt Wayne. Michael Williams,
Here.
Aaron Salas, Rebecca Stanek-Rykoff, and last one, Cindy Torres. Okay. So it looks like we have 8 members present. Is that correct, Halima?
That is correct. Yes. We have 8 members present.
Good.
Or 14.
So now that we're done with roll call, we'll move on to the presentation section. The first informational item is an overview of the 2019 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan. Since this is the foundational document for this committee, we want to intro this item to set the tone for the committee moving forward. Some of you were part of the Castro Valley Bpap, so you were quite involved in the early development. Others may have been a participant as part of the public process. Some of you may not have been too involved in the beginning. So this will give us a chance to give you an overview of this bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And I'll be the presenter for this item. So give me a second here and I'll bring up the PowerPoint slide. So if everyone can see my screen? Yes? All right, well, let me get started then. So this presentation gives an overview to the 2019 Alameda County Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan update for the unincorporated areas of the county. This update was completed in 2019, and we had 3 primary purposes to update the master plan. First, it is required by Alameda County Transportation Commission to update the plan periodically, about once every 5 years, in order for us to continue to receive transportation money. Second, the update is an opportunity for us to learn about the latest practice in the design of pedestrian and bicycle facilities. Lastly, the master plan really becomes a planning document so that we can continue to improve the experience of pedestrians and bicyclists using our roads and to support The master plan update involved a number of steps and elements. We begin by taking an inventory of the existing facilities in order to understand the current conditions and to identify any deficiencies on our network. Next, we undertook a fairly extensive public outreach effort to find out how the public uses our facilities, the challenges that they face, and improvements that they would like to see. We also analyze our accident history to look for any area of special concerns within our network. Using these data and information, we updated our bicycle network in different areas of the county. We developed criteria to help us prioritize our sidewalk project and also to help us identify funding opportunities. And lastly, we compile what we call our design toolkit to highlight the most current practice for designing pedestrian and bicycle facilities. As mentioned in the last slide, we had a fairly extensive outreach effort when we began this master plan update. So here's a list of events that we hosted in 2017, kind of the latter part of that year. And as we move into 2018 and 19, the effort continued going to different parts of the county in order to obtain public input. So in the end, we had over 30 outreach meetings. Here are some photos that were taken at these meetings. And I guess I want to highlight two things that I saw in these photos. Number one, when you look at these photos, you can see the process is kind of interactive. We provide maps and papers and pencil for people to provide written comments to us. The second thing that I want to highlight is the diversity of input that we get. In this picture here, you can see we have people from different age group, different type of road users, all of them engaging and providing us with valuable comments. We also recognize that not everyone could attend our in-person meeting, so we also hosted a wiki map as an online map to allow online input to provide comments to us. At the end, we got comments from about 200 people. What we learned were challenges that they face, places that they're currently walking and biking, and places that they would like to walk and bike in the future. So ultimately, we took all that information and we updated our bicycle network in our West County area, East County, and Central County. And for pedestrian, we put together a prioritization criteria for our sidewalk project. So here's a map of the West County bike network, which includes San Lorenzo, Ashland, Cherryland, most of Castro Valley. And if I zoom in here, so on these maps, the solid line shows you the existing facility, and the dashed line shows you the proposed facility. And really on all of these maps, what we try to do is to bring continuity to the bike networks to allow people to ride their bike, not just within one single community, but to be able to travel across, traveling from one community to another community. On this map, you'll also see places with these gray area that are highlighted. These means when we do the design for these projects, we'll have to get additional input from the residents and the community in this area to finalize the bicycle facility design. So here's the East County bike network, which roughly covers roughly from the Dublin Grade on the west side to the unincorporated Livermore area on the east side. Here's a Central County bike network, covers the Fairview District, Five Canyons, Palomares, and the eastern portion of Castro Valley. On these networks, you'll see different types of facilities as defined in the California Streets and Highways Code. So in this slide, we are showing an example of a Class 2 buffer bike lane and Class 4 separated bike lanes. On the network map, you'll actually see other classes of bike facilities throughout the county. So in the unincorporated areas, we have a number of places that need new sidewalks. And as part of this master plan update, we developed criteria to prioritize these sidewalk projects. These criteria include location of nearby schools, accident history in the area, the presence of pedestrian generators such as local parks, retail stores, or senior centers. We also look at feasibility of the project in terms of how much public right-of-way acquisition we would have to obtain. Functional classification of the road is also considered. with a collector and arterial roadway having more traffic volume and potentially more conflict, having a higher priority. And lastly, we look at communities of concern, such as areas in Ashland and Cherryland. So applying all those criteria, we compile scores for each of the sidewalk project, and the total scores for the project determine the priority. Our sidewalk program in the next few years will follow this list of prioritization. Now, in addition to knowing where to build or improve our facilities, we also want to make sure that we follow the most current design practice. In one of the appendix in the master plan, we included design information related to national standards and resources that are relevant. We included description of different pedestrian and bike facility types. We also included design ideas to handle challenging locations such as intersection or other conflict area. For some design application, we may need to use enhancement or other support treatment such as bicycle signal, bike boulevard, and our master plan include information on these topics. And lastly, FHWA considers some of these design concepts experimental. For example, green color bike lane that you see on the street. And we included a section to show the current status of these experimental treatments. So a quick summary, our bicycle and pedestrian master plan is now updated and meets the Alameda County Transportation Commission's requirement for us to continue to receive funding. In addition, the master plan showcased the most current design practice for bike and ped facilities. And as part of the update, we analyzed existing conditions. We conducted extensive public outreach. In the end, we updated the bicycle network, developed priority for our sidewalk projects, and produced a toolbox to highlight the current best design practices. The bicycle and pedestrian master plan was adopted by the Alameda County Board of Supervisors in October 2019. And if you go to our website, you may be able to download a copy of the master plan and all the appendices. So at this time, I will answer any questions that the committee have for our bicycle and pedestrian master plan. If you have questions, go ahead and raise your virtual hands.
I have a question. So you mentioned there was a formula for prioritization. Can we actually get the formula?
Yes, it may be included in the master plan already in terms of describing the criteria and how it is applied. So we can look into it.
Yeah, so whatever, because you came up with a number, so you must have plugged, 5/10 of this thing into 10/10 of that, and whatever. So anyway, want to find out what the actual, because it seems like Somerset and higher are pretty low on your list. And those are connecting schools and things like that. So I know they're not in an area of concern, but low income area, but they're pretty big deals. And from our Bpap, we had the Castro Valley Bpap, and we did a survey, and Somerset in particular showed up as by far the most interest in both cycling and in pedestrian of all the streets.
Yes, Dan.
Yeah, I was looking at the plan, and I was more focused on the East County area. And I know that's not probably a high scoring area, but I know there's some pretty bad hotspots for safety, like Crossroads and Tesla and all that. And I know they have class 3 shown for a lot of those roadways, but maybe in some of the hotspots, they could do some special treatments I think there's some pretty well-known areas have been some very serious accidents out there. And then I know there's not a lot of room on those roads, and it's hard. So they're so long, it's going to be very expensive to do anything. And I saw they're class 3. But you know, when there's a lot of terrain, like say for example Crossroads or Tesla, if there could be almost like a climbing lane for the uphill direction, then you'd only have to put, you know, a bike lane on one side. There might be enough room for that, and go ahead and leave it as class 3 going downhill, because the cyclists will just want to, you know, go 25 miles an hour or whatever. So I don't know, is there a process? You said it gets updated periodically, the plan?
That is correct. I think in the 2019, you are correct. Most of the bicycle facilities in the East counties are class 3. And like you said, most of that because of just lack of space. I mean, I can tell you in terms of hotspot, for example, Tesla in Greenville, we are about to, I think we just advertised on Tuesday a traffic signal project at that intersection. So that will probably help in terms of safety, at least at that particular location.
Okay,
up on Patterson Pass, I know the city of Livermore, they just finished their signalization project. So once again, in terms of hotspot, I think that location is being taken care of.
Okay, great, thank you.
Are there any other questions about the plan?
I had another comment. So this is, like you say, a foundational document for the BPAC, but another foundational document will be the climate action plan. So is it possible that we can walk through some of those transportation related climate action targets? Because there are some that are bike and ped specific. I think there's about almost 10 of them. So that would be really useful.
Yeah, I think when this master plan update was I think we started back in 2017 and we finished in 2019. I think during that process, you know, climate change is certainly something that was considered along the whole process. In terms of, you know, looking at some of that climate action that you mentioned, maybe we can do that at a meeting in the future.
Yeah, that would be great, because some of those targets are, you know, separate from the stuff that you're doing. And, you know, we just had an Orange Monday, you know, due to, definitely in part from the climate crisis. So we definitely want to do more and more. And I think, I don't know if you know, but, you know, Governor Newsom just signed a, what do you call it, a executive order where he's going to call for more and more bike and ped facilities, and also, you know, no more gas powered cars, you know, by 2035. So, you know, we need to sort of get on board with all that stuff. We have a really good climate action plan. Almost nobody knows it exists. So it would be really great to review just that small portion that applies to us in this meeting.
Yeah, and I would say our Bpap master plan is in alignment with that. Right? So as we implement this project, it will help provide facilities for non-motorized travel, and that would bring benefit to you know, bring down some of these greenhouse gas, you know, that we have in the environment right now. So I think we're in alignment with it.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's aligned with it, but let's go ahead and look at that climate action plan, because that's the that's actually the larger umbrella over the bicycle and pedestrian plan.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the committee? Okay, if not, I think we're going to allow the public to make comments if there's anyone who would like to call in to make public comment. Halima, are there any speakers for this?
We have about 2 people from the public listed, and no one is yet raising their hand. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand, your virtual hand.
Okay.
I don't think there are no questions at
Okay.
this time.
If that's the case, let's move on to the next presentation. And so the next presentation is another informational item to update the committee on the application or the grant applications for active transportation program. We actually have two presenters for this. We have Art Carrera, our principal civil engineer overseeing the transportation division. We also have Ryan McLean. He's from our consultant, Fair and Peers. Ryan had worked closely with us to prepare these applications. So I will turn this over to Art and Ryan.
Sharing this?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, you can see it?
Yep. All right. So I'm starting this off, right, Art?
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Rick. So we're going to give an overview of the active transportation program and then talk about the specific applications that were submitted. So the active transportation program was formed by Caltrans in 2013, and it consolidated a lot of the various funding sources that went towards bicycle and pedestrian and safe routes to school type projects into a single account that was then awarded to various agencies through a grant process. And the goals of the program were to increase the proportion of trips accomplished by biking and walking, increase safety and mobility for non-motorized users, achieve greenhouse gas reduction goals, enhance public health, ensure that disadvantaged communities fully share in the program benefits, and provide a broad spectrum of projects to benefit all active transportation users. So really in line with the goals similar to the Bike and Ped Master Plan. Next slide. So there's two opportunities to get funding through the program, and it is highly competitive. We're in cycle 5. In cycle 4, there were only 2 Bay Area projects that were actually awarded funding. So it's highly competitive. There's $440 million available in the statewide pool. And then for projects that don't get selected in the statewide pool, there's also a regional source of funding. So that's through MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and they'll have $37 million to work with for those projects that don't get selected at the statewide level. So again, both are highly competitive. There's a lot of projects that get submitted for funding and a lot that don't receive funding. So some of the key application scoring pieces to this, one is disadvantaged community. And so there's a very specific definition for that Caltrans has. But there are a couple of the projects that we'll talk about that will get some funding through this. East Llewellyn and Mission, which we'll talk about these projects, will get points for this. Partial credit for East Llewellyn based on median household income. Mission based on the MTC designated community of concern, which also gives partial credit. D Street is partially within an MTC designated community of concern as well. And Anita Avenue is also one, but it's not one of the prescribed disadvantaged communities. It doesn't fall within the category that's defined by Caltrans. So several of the applications will get points for that though. And we'll go into more detail about those locations. And then regionally significant is also one of the ways to get points in this. And basically what that means is that the benefit goes beyond just the neighborhood that the project is constructed in. So again, could be a gap closure connecting to separate facilities that then creates a much broader reach for that facility. Next slide. So these are the 5 grant applications that were put in: East Llewellyn, Anita Avenue, Mission, D Street, and Niles Canyon. So those were all submitted, and Art is going to talk about the details of each of those.
Yeah, when we selected the projects, we did want to provide some sort of equity over the different communities that we have. So they are fairly spread out through the different communities: East Llewellyn, in Ashland, Mission, and Cherryland, Anita, Castro Valley. D Street is Fairview, and Niles Canyon is like a more of the rural, like East County type project. So the Mission Boulevard project is the third phase of our East 14th Mission Corridor project. Phase 2 of East 14th Street is currently under construction. The city of Hayward is constructing a project up to their city line. So this is really a gap closure project. It would complete the corridor improvements along East 14th Street and Mission Boulevard. So the project will construct one lane of protected bicycle lanes. It includes sidewalk enhancements, protected intersections, crosswalk safety enhancements, landscaping, street lighting, pedestrian scale street lighting. So it's really a transforming project for the community. So we're really excited about this project, and we're really hoping that it does well on the scoring so that we can get the construction money for this. So the estimated construction cost of this project is about $25 million, and the ATP application that we put forth was $7.9 million, and this is for construction monies. So the Mission Boulevard project, provides safe routes to schools. The two schools that we identified were Edendale Middle School and San Lorenzo High School. It provides safe routes to transit, access to businesses, community access, ADA, accessibility, which is Americans with Disabilities Act, bicycle and pedestrian safety and comfort. Again, a transforming project, transforms walking and biking, but it transforms the commercial district into a very desirable place for people to walk and bike and shop. And as I mentioned, it does close the gap along Mission Boulevard between our Phase 2 project and the City of Hayward's project at the south end of our project. And as Ryan mentioned, it does serve a disadvantaged community. So that's one of the key elements of this, that the key things that are going to separate our projects from other projects is this disadvantaged community points, that and the regionally significant points. So the East Llewellyn Boulevard project is another gap closure project. So phase 1 of Meekland Avenue, phase 1 of Llewellyn Boulevard was completed approximately 10 years ago. It does connect to the East 14th Mission Boulevard corridor. And so this project will provide another gap closure of the transportation facility along this Llewellyn Boulevard and along East 14th and Mission. So the project will construct one lane of protected bike lanes. It will provide the sidewalk gap closures, high visibility crosswalks, street trees, bulb outs at the intersections. It's meant to really another transforming project to elevate the bicycle comfort and biking ability for the roadway, but also for pedestrians as well, to make it much more safe and comfortable for both bikes and pedestrians. The estimated construction cost of this project is about $7 million, and we submitted an ATP application for $3 million for construction. East Llewellyn Boulevard project serves several schools: Colonial Acres School, San Lorenzo High School, Edendale Middle School, also the St. John's School is along that area. Safe routes to transit. There's several AC transit routes in the area. Provides business access, community access, again, ADA accessibility, provides improved bicycle and pedestrian safety and comfort. Another transforming project for walking and biking. Another gap closure project, and as Ryan mentioned, it does serve a disadvantaged community. So this is another one that we're really hoping to get funding for. Actually, all of them, but I think there's significant amount of disadvantaged points that will be applied for here. Anita Avenue is in the Castro Valley area. We'll close the sidewalk gaps, install high visibility crosswalks with ADA ramps, flashing beacons at mid-block crossings. There's some right-of-way acquisition as well, so that it's a uniform roadway width project as opposed to what's out there now. The estimated construction cost is $4 million, and the ATP application request was 2.1. This project is currently under design, so the benefit of this one is that if we get the money, that this project will be construction ready as soon as the funds are approved. So this one kind of falls in line with the ideal process of having monies approved or allocated, and then it goes to construction right away. So this one I think is a good project for the funding grant. So this shows the cross section of the roadway with this is the 50-foot wide section with 8-foot parking, 20-foot travelway, and it does serve the Castro Valley Elementary School, Castro Valley High School, Our Lady of Grace, provides safe routes to transit. It serves Castro Valley BART station, downtown Castro Valley at the Castro Valley Boulevard, provides ADA accessibility and improves pedestrian safety and comfort. D Street is another project that we submitted. It provides for the gap closure of sidewalks. We plan to install class 2 bike lanes, hopefully buffered bike lanes, but we're still going through the analysis right now. It installs flashing beacons and bulb outs at intersections and crosswalks. The estimated construction cost is $7 million, and the ATP application request is $2.5 million for construction. So the D Street project will, it serves safe routes to school. It serves Fairview Elementary School. It provides safe routes to transit, serving Transit Route 95, provides ADA accessibility, and provides improved pedestrian and bicycle safety and comfort. So the Niles Canyon Trail is the last project that we applied for. We applied for phase 1 of the project. The project is a corridor improvement project, a regionally significant project that extends from Niles to Sunol. The total project is approximately $100 million for design and construction. So we're at this point advancing the phase 1 portion of the project. Currently, we're going through the environmental assessment phase for the project. So that will be completed in approximately a year. This funding application is for design of the project, and once the design is complete, then we'll be in a position to request construction funding. So the project will construct a 6-mile long, ultimately a 6-mile long class 1 trail along Alameda Creek. Again, we're looking for design costs. The estimated design cost is $6 million for the entire project, and this application request is $2.8 million to complete design of the phase 1 portion, which links Niles Canyon to Palomares Road. So Ryan, do you want to cover this slide?
Sure. So the applications were submitted in mid-September. So those went in February. If everything goes according to schedule, Caltrans will make the recommendations for the statewide program. Then following that in March, the CTC states that announces those. Then in May 2021, MTC submits their recommendations. And then in June 2021, CTC would approve the MTC list. So those regional projects still need to be approved at the state level. And then each of these projects follows a slightly different schedule, just kind of based on where they are in the process. So that would start to move forward in June, depending on which project it is. And this schedule is off a little bit because of COVID and deadlines were pushed out a bit. So it's a little bit behind where it typically would be, but moving forward at about the same rate at this point.
So that's the presentation. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a comment, Art. What about the San Lorenzo Creek? You had mentioned that in a different meeting. Yeah,
that one, we were a sponsor of. That's not something that we prepared. It was prepared by, I believe, HARD. HARD prepared that funding application, but we were a co-sponsor of that one. So yeah, that one is a project that was submitted and accepted by Caltrans as a ATP application. But I don't have all the details of that. I wasn't that involved in that application, but that was submitted as a joint project with HARD and the county.
Well, I just want to say these are really awesome projects and super excited to see so many protected bike lanes. I just think that's incredible. Like you say, very transformational projects. Great word.
I was going to make the same comment because driving up Mission and seeing what's happened, you know, to the bike lane and all that work that's been done, it would be wonderful to see all of it to fruition. Obviously, I'm really excited about Anita as well, but all of them really hopefully will encourage people to ride their bikes.
Ride their bike and walk. Yes.
And bike and walk. So thank you. And thank you for sending us the letter of support so that we could be ready and we could sign it.
I had a question, Art or Ryan. Thanks for the presentation. So I noticed on the cost estimates, then there's the funding being requested from for ATP. Obviously, there's a shortfall between the two. How's the funding looking beyond that? You know, just in general for the county and with the COVID and things going on, has that been seriously affected?
No, we have several irons in the fire for funding. So we've also contacted the Alameda County Transportation Commission to let them know what our priorities are for funding, and they're another funding source that is looking at implementing projects right away. So the more construction ready we are, the better we are. So this just like a leveraging of money. So if we get ATP monies, we piece that together with monies from ACTC, and then the rest would be local monies. So we're looking at a blend or a cocktail of funding to build these projects. Great.
I had a similar funding question. Ryan, you said it was $440 million from Caltrans and $37 million from MTC. That split seems really, you know, what is that? It's like a 9-to-1 or a 10-to-1. I guess a 10-to-1. Was that true in the last cycles? Because it seems to be like not that much local money, but.
Well, it's actually all from the same funding source. So it's the statewide pool of funds, but there's a certain amount that all compete. The 440 is what projects compete for statewide. So these projects will compete with projects in Southern California for that, or in, you know, Central Valley for that 440 million. But then MTC is given a pool of 37 million by the state to then also give that so that it can be more focused regionally.
But is that split kind of like typical of the past?
Yes, yeah, that's typical. But it's still all coming from the same source. So first you compete statewide, and then if you don't win that, then you know these projects would be competing, say, with a project in Sonoma County or in Santa Clara County for that pool of 37 million. So there's less competition because you would have also had to submit to the statewide funds. So it's almost just like a second chance for the same money, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And I guess hopefully with the executive order that Bruce was talking about at the state level, I mean, it's one thing to pass an executive order. It's kind of like public education. Do this, but there's no money.
Right.
It would really make sense to actually set aside funding for these kinds of things to make them happen. So I think our advocacy at the state is really important for these things.
We have a question from Cindy. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and state your question. Cindy?
This is Joanne. You unmuted me.
Okay.
Can I ask my question or?
Sure, go ahead, and then we'll have Cindy next.
Sorry, just following the prompts. So this is Joanne Lauer from Castro Valley. Question, as it's part of the responsibilities of the committee to participate in the preparation of these applications, except this body wasn't consulted, neither was anybody in the community. Great to see Daniel and his team were involved in this. Thrilled about that. You guys are amazing and really appreciate that. However, as you probably know, the predecessor to this group, the Castro Valley Bpap, was totally instrumental in us winning those prior grants. And we were pretty disappointed that we weren't given any opportunity to help give input, because we obviously have a lot of value riding on the results. So not sure why this body or any of the community was not given the opportunity to participate in helping support those grants.
Yeah, I think it just had to do with the timing of the funding grants and the formation of the unincorporated county Bpap.
Well, the people were still here. I mean, we could have had a special meeting just for that, right?
Yeah, I think we put together a good package this time. I think we did limit the number of funding applications that we put forth, and we utilized consultants to help us with this. So I think the funding applications are very high quality, and I think we stand a very good chance, or I'm hoping that we have a very good chance of getting funding for these projects.
Okay, well, fingers crossed. Hold on, Bruce, just a sec. So the other question I had is 2 cycles ago, since last cycle, the applications were unfortunately not completed as they should have. In the prior round, both Hire and Proctor had scored really highly, even though they weren't funded. And we had the group from ATP actually came out and looked at Proctor. So just wondering why Proctor and Hire were not included. And based on those criteria I just saw, Hire is definitely regionally significant since it connects like all the schools in the community.
Yeah, so I mentioned that we were focusing more on construction-ready projects, or the likelihood of getting money is probably more predicated on projects that we can advance towards construction. So like Anita Avenue is under design right now. Mission Boulevard, the design will be done by the end of this year. East Welling is currently under design. So it was a strategy to look at what our best opportunities were for funding, rather than just putting in a number of funding applications. So we were strategically looking at our best opportunities for getting funding.
Okay, even though they scored higher last time, that's why I was thinking, even though it's not construction ready, those seem to be pretty prime for it. And I get that you're trying to be all equal with all the regions. However, I think the population in Castro Valley definitely outweighs a lot of the other areas. Thus, there's a lot more people walking here than in some of the other areas. So just want to advocate for that. Thank you, Art.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just want to mention San Lorenzo Creek application had 3 or 4 public meetings that we I attended it myself. So.
Hi, Cindy, do you have a question?
I do. I live in Cherryland. I have over several years now, when we've been talking about these streetscapes, have mentioned this short little piece of roadway between East Llewellyn, south of that to the San Lorenzo Creek. I see that in the packet that we were given, the application of sidewalk project prioritization criteria. It's showing that, you know, you're looking at East Llewellyn to East 14th. And then like 7th down the list is Meekland Avenue, East Llewellyn to Blossom Way, which is a little bit of a stretch. I have been asking for just this short little piece of roadway between East Llewellyn and the Creek Way, which is, I wouldn't even say a quarter of a mile, to be added to the East Llewellyn project. I'm surprised to see that it says that the pedestrian generators is blank. There are 7 businesses in that little short section, several driveways, 1 duplex and a house across the street, and then the townhomes. This will also affect the San Lorenzo Creekway project in redoing that area. It's right in the way to between Colonial Acres, St. John, San Lorenzo. It has not been improved since I was a child many decades ago walking that area. And I think it's just a really dangerous area. I'm surprised we haven't had something major happen there. So to consider that as part of the whole Meekland to Blossom, I think should be reconsidered and put as part of the East Llewellyn Boulevard project. And I have brought this up several times over the years.
Where was this project again? Or the roadway that you're requesting?
East Llewellyn Boulevard on Meekland Avenue, between Meekland Avenue, between East Llewellyn Boulevard and the San Lorenzo Creekway. There are 7 businesses.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's part of an upcoming project. We have funding for that project. And that project is currently under design. At this point, we're developing options, and we'll be scheduling a public meeting to present the options to the community before we advance to the final design.
Okay, it wasn't clear of when that's going to be done. I've asked several times. Okay. And here it looks kind of like down on the list, and concerned about the numbers here because there are 7 businesses and it's a lot of foot traffic.
Yeah, we didn't apply for the APP funding for that because we got a separate grant for that. So we've hired a consultant and we're putting together information for a public meeting, and that should be taking place within the next few months.
The next when?
What's
the name of that project called?
Who was talking?
Sorry, it's Michael. What's the name of that project called?
The Meekland Avenue project?
Yeah, that's the name of it, Meekland Avenue project?
Yeah, it's the second phase of the Meekland Avenue project. We built the first phase from about A Street to Blossom Way, and this will be building sidewalks from Blossom Way down to East Llewellyn Boulevard, including widening the bridge. The bridge is not wide enough to accommodate bike lanes, so we'll be widening the bridge across San Lorenzo Creek.
When would that project be started?
So we just hired a consultant, so we're at this point we're coming up with the scoping of it. We'll go through a community meeting, and then as soon as the community meeting, we take that to the Eden MAC, and then we'll go full bore on design. I would expect design probably 2.5 years to complete design.
2.5 years to complete design. Is there any way to include that portion from the bridge to East Llewellyn in the other project?
No, they're separate project. That got a separate funding source specifically for Meekland.
It's a whole different problem. That area, that short section has no sidewalks at all. The rest of the Meekland has sidewalks, even though they're in disrepair.
Right.
But this is a critical part for walking to these schools, and along with the San Lorenzo Creekway project coming up, it would be great to have this done at the same time instead of waiting 2.5 years to design it.
Yeah, so like I said, that we applied for funding a few years ago. We got the money, and now we're advancing the design, so that project is underway.
Okay, I've gone to all the meetings over the years, and I've practically begged for this part to be included in East Llewellyn. So it's disheartening to hear that it's not included, and it's going to have to wait for the next project.
Hi, Matt. Do you have a question that you'd like to state? We'll ask you to unmute yourself.
Hi. Yeah. And this is not as a staffer, as a resident biker. I was coming up Mission Boulevard the other day, delivering meals for seniors, and noticing their bike infrastructure, where they have the kind of gutter style, bike lanes where, there's this narrow gauge track, and it was already full of debris. And I witnessed cyclists having to get off their bikes and navigate, overgrown plantings and pulling branches out to make their way in the bike lane. And I know that we've got that coming up on the north side of East 14th for our for the streetscape project that's underway now. And so I was really excited to see the Mission Boulevard project with that kind of ideal style, asphalt on grade with the sidewalk project that you've got. And there's so many exciting projects coming up in this grant proposal. Everything from the South County Niles Canyon stuff to all the neighborhood stuff in D Street, and to that thought about the kind of design standards for bike lanes. Any place that we've got room enough to do a buffered bike lane, we have the room to extend the sidewalk so that you just have asphalt with a curb and gutter to elevate the bike lane, just like the Mission Boulevard project, up out of traffic. Because the paint is great, but I on a weekly basis am blocked by delivery trucks or people parking illegally in the bike lane, or cops pulling people over in the bike lane. I mean, a painted bike lane just doesn't offer the safety and security that a curb and gutter bike lane do, and it doesn't. It's not something that requires a narrow gauge street sweep or anything else when it's on level with the sidewalk grade. So I'm wondering if there isn't some kind of design standard where that could be implemented as something that's, lower maintenance. You're not going to have to repaint it on a regular basis, and it's not going to have to be street swept separately, and it's just going to be safer. I mean, I know my kids would ride on that rather than on the street, and I currently have them ride on the sidewalk because it's legal while they're still minors, because it's safer than riding in a buffered bike lane where they're in the door zone and subject to the vagaries of distracted driving. So just a question about the design standards, and really applauding you all for these spectacular application projects, and really lighting a candle for every single one of them. Thank you.
Yeah, so for the separated bike lane, so the East Llewellyn project is really the first one that we're trying, where there's a roadway where there's numerous driveways, and other applications where I've seen the at least local applications, there aren't as many driveways. But if if we can come up with a design that seems to work, then wherever we have the right of way and we can fit in a separated bike lane that's at the same level as the sidewalk, then yeah, we'll build it if we can, if possible. That would be our preferred option. Is our number one option for for bike facilities would be, can we build a separated bike lane, and then we will go down the priority list based on feasibility.
The other thing that allows the pedestrian and the cyclist to share space a little, if there's a little overflow on one or the other, so it's a little more flexible with the space when they're at the same elevation.
Yeah, I believe, Sharon, you have a question?
Well, I don't have a question. I just wanted to share input in one. I'm glad that Cindy brought up the issue about Meekland. Cindy, at another meeting, I had asked about that, and they told me it was part of another project. I live right there in the section of Meekland she was talking about at East Llewellyn, and we serve 4 schools there. We've got Colonial Acres, San Lorenzo High School, St. John's, and Edendale students. And I tell you, on a school morning, that intersection is very busy, as well as Llewellyn up to East Llewellyn up to Mission Boulevard. So I'm really excited after all these years to see that we're going to have improvements there. This is my first time learning about the widening of the bridge, which I think will be great, because in terms of bicycle safety, when I ride my bike and I have to come home and make that right turn into my apartment complex driveway, it's very scary. Sometimes I just get on the sidewalk just because cars come very quickly over that bridge, and if they don't anticipate you turning, it can be kind of dicey right there. So are we going to be learning more, or is that a separate project, learning more about the widening of the bridge there over San Lorenzo Creek on Meekland?
That's part of the Meekland project. So once we put together the options, we'll hold a community meeting, and you can learn more about it. And then
okay, great. But I just want to say thank you. I worked in all the areas that you're going to be, these projects are in. I've ridden Niles Canyon from Sunol to Fremont, and I'm telling you, that is one of the scariest rides in the world right now. So I'm excited about that project. I may do it again once you guys are done with that. And I'm very happy that Ashland Cherryland are getting the attention that we really desperately need, because that's a very high bicycle pedestrian area. So thank you. I just wanted to say thanks.
All right.
I want to comment on that widening of the bridge. Is it possible, Art, to look into somehow facilitating the San Lorenzo Creek? It's over the San Lorenzo Creek, and we're planning a trail there. And what makes those creek trails, like the Alameda Creek Trail, so great is that they actually go underneath the bridges, so you don't have to mess with the street, So as you know, you live near the Alameda Creek Trail, and I used to take that a lot to get myself from northern Fremont into central Fremont. And the beauty is that there's no traffic, there's no cars, because you go underneath the roads. And so I know it's a little challenging in that area. So if you're going to reconstruct the bridge, can we try to accommodate that kind of an intersection?
I know it's just very tight. That, like you said, that the area along Alvarado Boulevard and that area of Fremont is much different than this area. This area along Meekland is very tight. So yeah, we'll try to accommodate the San Lorenzo Creek Trail as much as possible, but it's just a very tight area for.
That's a section of the Creekway Trail that is going to have to come up onto the streets, because they cannot go under at that bridge, and so that would have to be designed different to accommodate that. Again, I have to stress that this section between East Llewellyn and north of the Creekway has no sidewalks. It's not the same as south of the Creekway to Blossom. South of the Creekway to Blossom has sidewalks. This section is critical to safe pedestrian traffic and car traffic, actually.
Right. Oh, and if I can just add, that bridge is just way, as he was saying, it's way too short. It's too tight. It would be very steep if you wanted to try to make it high enough for people to be able to go underneath it. So I don't see how they'd be able to do that. It wouldn't work.
Well, it's an opportunity, if there's going to be reconstructed, to maybe make it a little higher. I don't know, or maybe do something also down below where it goes maybe into the, closer to the bottom of the creek or something, because it's all concrete lined, right?
So it's almost 7:10. I'm sure we'll have more opportunity to talk about the Meekland Avenue project. If it's okay, I'd like to move on to the 2 discussion items so that we will have time to go through that. Thank you, Art and Ryan, by the way, making those presentation. So item 3A is to approve the action minute from our last Bpap meeting on June 24th. I guess, first of all, if any member of the committee has any questions or comment about the meeting minute, please raise your virtual hand. And
so I have a comment. So this is a public meeting. So how do we do public outreach to get people so they can find out more about this meeting? And then how the last week, we recorded the last week's our last meeting. Can we get a link to that last meeting? That would be, related to the minutes.
Yeah, I think in terms of meeting, I believe we post the agenda and the material. Halima, correct me if I'm wrong, 72 hours in advance?
Yes, that's correct.
So in terms of public outreach, we try to give the public enough time to know about the meeting and the material that we'll be covering. What the recording of the minute, do you know if that's available, Halima?
We did record the last meeting, so I will find out if that's going to be available, and I'll let you know, Bruce.
Okay, yeah, it's a public meeting, so that would be great. But posting stuff 72 hours is not public outreach. That's just putting stuff up. But reaching out to the public, as you know, is like you talked about with the bike and ped plan, is sending out emails. It's going to the people in meetings, which of course we can't do now. So.
All right. Are there any other questions or comment about the meeting minute? Okay, if not, we will.
I have one more comment. There was no, the meeting minutes are pretty abbreviated, so they don't, and this is why the recording is important, because I know there were public comments, and in the public comments on the meeting minutes, it says there were no public comments. So, so that needs to be fixed.
Okay. We will open the public comments for this item. Are there any members from the public who wish to speak on this item regarding the action minute from the last meeting? You see anyone, Halima, from the public?
No one from the public is raising their hand.
Okay. So going back to the committee members, if there are no further questions, would someone like to make a motion to approve the action minute?
So moved. This is David Berman.
Yes.
If they need to be amended, then how does that work? Because I just got done saying that they're, how can we approve minutes if they're not accurate? And so I think there's some public comments that aren't included.
So maybe we can, if you want, you can make a motion for us to correct the meeting minute and bring this back the next time we meet.
Yeah. Okay, I would like to make a motion to correct the meeting minutes and bring it back next time we meet.
Okay, is there a second?
You never got a second. From who approved?
A second.
They passed the first time? Maybe I'm tripping. I thought they were passed with a motion to amend.
Yeah, am I accepting an amendment? I'm happy to accept an amendment
Okay.
to my motion.
Okay. Well, Bruce, if you don't mind, can you restate the motion one more time?
Yeah, so I move that we correct the minutes so that we can vote on them, approve them at the next meeting.
Okay. And did I get a second for that motion? Can I get a second for Bruce's motion?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, David.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there any need for debate for that motion before we vote? Please raise your virtual hand if you do. Okay, so I'll restate the motion. The motion is to correct the meeting minute for the June 24th meeting. Yes, June 24th meeting to be approved in our December meeting. So we will go to a vote. I will call out each name alphabetically. Please indicate aye, nay, or abstain. Parvin.
Aye.
David Berman.
Aye.
Aaron Boholman.
Aye.
Chris Chandler. I don't think Chris is here. Chanita Chu.
I'm going to abstain.
Bruce Doogie.
Aye.
Rachel, I believe, is not here. Dan Leary.
Aye.
Carmen Lopez.
Aye.
Matt Wing is not here. Michael Williams.
Aye.
Aaron Salas is not here. Rebecca, I believe, is not here. Cindy Torres is also not here. So the motion passes with 7 ayes and 1 abstain. So we will correct the meeting minute, bring this back to the committee in December. Last discussion item has
Excuse me, I think Cindy is.
Yeah,
I
Cindy's
am
here.
She signed in on.
I am here, and
oh, I'm sorry.
and I say aye to the motion.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the panelist list. You were on the attendees list. Okay, I'm sorry. Cindy, Cindy, what was your vote?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 8 ayes and 1 abstain. Like I said, we will correct the meeting minute, bring this back in December for the committee to review and approve. Items 3B has to do with the December meeting. So normally our quarterly meeting falls on the 4th Thursday of the month. That would make the next meeting on December 24th or Christmas Eve. Recommendation is to hold a meeting on the 17th, 1 week before that. That's our recommendation. Does the committee have any questions or comments about the proposal to have the meeting 1 week earlier on December 17th? Okay. Halima, are there any public comments regarding proposal to change the meeting date?
There are none.
There are none, okay. All right. So if I can get one of the committee member to make a motion to move the next meeting from December 24th to December 17th, please.
So moved.
I move. Oh. I second. Sharon Bohoman.
All right, thank you both. So the motion is to change a meeting date from December 24th to December 17th. We will go to the vote. Again, I'll call your name out alphabetically. Parvin Ahmadi. Did I lose Parvin?
Oh, yes, Parvin may have had to leave early.
Oh, I see. Okay. David Berman?
Aye.
Sharon Boholman?
Aye.
This is not here. Chanita Chu?
Aye.
Okay. Bruce Doogie?
Aye.
Rachel's not here. Dan Leary?
Aye.
Carmen Lopez?
Aye.
Matt is not here. Michael Williams?
Aye.
Aaron Salas is not here. Rebecca's not here. And Cindy Torres.
Aye.
Thank you very much. What was the tally, Halima?
We have 7 yeses and one of our members has left.
Okay. So the motion passes with 7 ayes, 1 nay. So our next meeting will be on December 17th at 6 o'clock. And with that, I believe we're about to adjourn the meeting. So just as a reminder, our next meeting will be on December 17th, 6 o'clock. Most likely it will also be, we'll be teleconferencing again, but we'll be sending out the material in advance to let you know.
Okay, excuse me, Rick, we have one person that's just raised their hand from the public.
Okay.
Joanne?
Hey there. So yeah, you skipped public comment there, Rick. So I actually sent in a list of questions to Edric and Halima, even though Edric's not here tonight. Halima got them, although I've asked a couple of them, so they're edited. Are these meetings going to be just informational, or are the BPAC members and the members of the public going to be included in like planning, brainstorming, decision making for the bike ped work in our communities?
Well, there will be opportunity. So for example, for some of our projects, we will be bringing those projects to the committee to let them know, the design that we're working on, and also to get their feedbacks. So I think there will be opportunity for public comment on the different projects that we'll be working on, specifically related to the items in the bicycle and pedestrian master plan.
Okay, great. So like specifically with like design elements for your projects, this committee and members of the public will be able to give input before the designs are finalized.
Yes, so as part of, just like a lot of the design project that we have during the design phase, we go out and obtain public input. And I would say not just at this Bpap, we also have other forums that we hold in order to get public input about our design. But yeah, certainly, like I said, for any project related to the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, we will bring that to this committee for input.
I guess one example is when we were the Castro Valley BPAC, there was a repaving and restriping along Center Street. And you guys did bring that design to the BPAC, but it was like the night before you actually striped it. So after we spent a lot of time working on that design, it actually didn't go anywhere. And I don't know that repaving and restriping with bicycle elements falls under the master plan, or is that something outside of it that we won't get to have input, even though it directly impacts the safety of our community members?
Yeah, so it's going to vary from project to project. Right, so when we get to a specific project, we'll look into the master plan and decide what would be the appropriate forum to obtain public input.
Okay, so it's going to be no different than just the regular public meetings you have. So the BPAC won't have any different input aside from what you would normally put at a public meeting for a project. which is like big projects like sidewalks and things like that. Those I know you do a lot of public meetings for, but other things like the Center Street design I just brought up, that's not a public, you don't do a public process for that, even though it affects us. And that was one of the things, one of the reasons why we wanted this body, was so we could have input on those design things that don't reach the level of multiple public meetings because it's a huge sidewalk project.
Yeah, no, so again, you know, when we get to the specific project, we will determine what would be the appropriate public outreach for that project, right? You know, every project is going to be a little different.
Is there a list of projects that you could bring to the BPAC so we know what's coming?
So in terms of design projects that are coming up?
Yes.
Yeah, we can certainly put that out there.
That would be great. That would be super helpful. That was one of the things that we were supposed to get in the other BPAC that didn't happen. Thank you. That would be great.
But Joanne is talking about projects that are much smaller than typical projects that you are typically looking for public input on. So just like she said with that Center Street, you know, where you guys put on the Sharrows, that was, you know, you wouldn't normally take that to the, you know, have a big public process for it. And so she wants to include those, and I agree, because those are also super important. And I also think we should include some process stuff too, so you guys can explain to us things like why and how you decide to put center lines in the streets, like on Santa Maria and on Wilson. Those are also repavement projects. And you know, somehow Wilson ended up with double yellow lines, even though it has good sight distance and very low, you know, relatively low traffic. So those are the kinds of things that we want to have input in. We didn't have any input into Wilson. We did have input into Santa Maria, but you never explained why you striped it the way you did.
Yeah, so again, I don't know if those projects are identified in the master plan. If it is identified in the master plan, this will be the appropriate forum to go to.
We're asking for things that aren't in the master plan.
And I think that would be outside the responsibility of this committee.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So we'll take that under advisement, Bruce.
Okay.
And then how can the members of the public or the members of the BPAC add things to the agenda for this BPAC?
So the agenda, so this particular one was developed by Edric. Well, I'll have to go back to him and find out how the process came about.
Okay, great. And then will you report back to the committee? Because then I can get that information from Bruce.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Would you report back to the committee, like by email with the answer to that? And then I can get that information from Bruce.
Well, I would say as we go to the next meeting, as we develop the agenda, I think we'll be in contact with the committee, but not just the committee, we will also be in contact with the county supervisor's office.
Great. Okay, and then on the notification for the meetings, as Bruce said, 72 hours is just not enough time. We have significant networks, and another reason for this committee is so that the public can be involved in, you know, what's going on with our safety and accessibility and these you know, wonderful improvements that you guys are making. But if we can't tell what's on the agenda until 72 hours before, it's very hard for us to get the word out, because people, right, make plans. And if we know further ahead of time, we can totally help, you know, publicize the fact that these meetings are happening and what's going to be on them, so people that have concerns about those specific things can definitely attend. How can we help make that happen?
So once again, in terms of the agenda making process, I'm gonna have to defer that back to Edric. He's not here tonight, so I don't want to answer or speak for him.
Excuse me, Joanne. We're gonna ask you to limit your comments to 3.
No, that's the last one. You have my list. That's the last one.
Yes, I just received your email. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would like to add on to what Joanne said, though, because we can do more in our community. You know, the one thing we hear all the time, I've been involved in lots of things, and it's, we didn't know. And you can put it out there as much as you want, but there's always going to be somebody that doesn't know. And so we need to try better. And I know legally you have to put it out 72 hours before, but if you do know of these meetings, of what the agenda items are, it would help us in our grassroots organizations to help spread the word. And that's what we're there for, is to help spread the word and get people involved.
Yeah, and we greatly appreciate that too. So we will work together to make sure informations are getting out to the right people. Okay. All right, let's see, what time is it? Well, it's 7:30. I think we've gone through the agenda. So for the record, it is, yeah, it's 7:30. So now that I would declare now that the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all in December then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, and stay safe. Thank you, Halima, for doing all that background there.